Good afternoon everybody and welcome back to our channel. As you can see, I'm back in the kitchen again, which normally means one thing: it's another pre-travel day. The time is currently 4:10 and it is the 20th of August, Sunday, 2023, and it's actually 9 days since we got back from our last trip. I would advise you to watch that series first before watching this new one, because some of you might have questions: why are we going back again after 9 days of being in the country? Why didn't we just stay there instead? Why come home and then stay here for 9 days and then go back over there again? So those questions are all being answered in the pre-travel date of last trip that we went on. But for those of you that have not watched it yet, or haven't got round to watching it yet, or not interested in watching it yet, I'll just give you a brief explanation. So me and Jess went to Camp Greentop last year, as you hopefully would have seen. We got invited back to go this year. So it was all set and agreed that we'll go back in March. Camp was a little bit different this year because camp is not at Camp Greentop because it's getting refurbished. So I was going to go to Camp Round Meadow, which is about 2 minutes away from camp itself. And session 1 was going to be in June, and session two was going to be in July, and then session 3 was going to be in August, and session 4 in August. But there was going to be big gaps in between the sessions. So me and Jess said that we could do session 3 and session 4. Now session 3 started on the 1st of August to the 9th, and then session 4 started on the 22nd of August to the 28th. So when camp finished on the 9th, we had the opportunity to stay at camp for like 12 days doing nothing, because obviously there's no campers there, and wait until obviously the campers turn up on the 22nd. There's about 12 days in between sessions. Now, because I've got a brand new job, I didn't want to take the mickey and obviously book extra time. So what we did, we said to the camp director Mel, is if it's okay if we do session 3 and then rather staying at camp for 10-12 days, I could come home and get a few more shifts in, and then we can fly back on the 21st and do another 6 days at camp. And she said that was perfectly fine, so all the flights were booked up. Again, I'll go into more detail in our other trip, but unfortunately camp got cancelled about 6 weeks ago. So me and Jess was like, well, what are we going to do? Because Mel, the camp director, said that she was going to honour our flights, because to say sorry for obviously camp not happening. Camp didn't happen because apparently there wasn't enough staff to run camp safely. So we got an email about 6 weeks ago saying that it's been cancelled due to staff shortages. The first session ran, but obviously me and Jess have only put our names down for 3rd session, 4th session. So session 1 did run, but after that they cancelled the rest of it because it just wasn't safe to do so with the amount of staff that was coming. So Mel emailed us and said that camp has been cancelled, but we're going to honour your flights. So we said thank you very much, okay, and we was gutted at first, but at least we still had a trip. Then we thought, what are we going to do? So we got from the 1st of August to the 9th, where we had accommodation sorted, all our entertainment, all what we was going to do sorted. We had all our meals planned for, because obviously we were at camp, so we was going to be catered for. All our accommodation was all sorted. And then obviously when camp was cancelled, it was like, well, we've got 10 days to what we're going to do. So the last trip you would have seen, hopefully if you've watched those vlogs, we'd done 3 days or 4 days in Philadelphia. Then we'd done a couple of days, I think 3-4 days in New York, and then 1 night in Washington, and then we came home. We landed on the 10th of August, and then obviously 12 days later, or 11 days later, 10 days later, on the 20th of August, which is today, I'm back here now telling you that we was meant to be flying out again tomorrow morning for session 4. Now session 4 was from the 22nd to the 28th. And again, we was meant to be staying at camp, having all our meals, accommodation, entertainment, stuff like that, all catered for us there, whilst we was looking after adults and children with disabilities. And then on the 28th to the 30th was making our way to Washington, because we've got some exciting things happening in Washington. A few gifts and that. I won't go into much detail because Jess wants to explain to that more in maybe when we get closer to it. And then we was going to make our way down to Baltimore on the 30th, stay overnight in Baltimore by the airport, and then on the 31st we was going to fly down to Florida, land on the 31st, we was going to meet my brother Matthew, and then we was going to do a week or 8 days in Florida, and then we was all flying home together. But obviously camp got cancelled. So again, me and Jess were like, well, what are we going to do from the 21st to the 28th? We've got hotels booked in Washington on the 28th. We've got a hotel booked in Baltimore on the 30th, and we've got our Florida accommodation. But the little gap, 22nd to the 28th of August, when we was meant to be at camp, we're like, what we're going to do? So on the last pre-travel day, you might remember me saying that me and Jess was looking to go to Boston. It's one of our destinations that we want to cross off our list. We've never been there before. We've heard good things about it. We've been watching YouTube videos about it, and we really want to go. Now, I did mention to you in the last pre-travel day 2 or 3 weeks ago that when we hadn't got anything booked for this trip that we're going on tomorrow, and we are looking at Boston, but Boston was coming in at way too expensive for hotels and stuff. Now, I did say on the pre-travel day that whilst we was in Philly and New York, we'll keep an eye out for the prices at Boston, and hopefully we can strike if it becomes cheaper. Now, unfortunately, the cheapest at the time was $700, and the most was, you know, the range up to two grand, you know, 1,500 to $2,000. And even if I had that money, I wouldn't pay it. So as the day got on, as the days got on, when we was in Philly, we kept looking. When we was in New York, we kept checking, and we decided that it wasn't viable. So when you watch the vlogs of us in Washington DC airport, you will see me going to Starbucks in the terminal and getting a large tea and a water. So me and Jess sat down. We had about 2 hours to wait for the flight, and we just decided that, do you know what, it's not going to be viable going to Boston. It's just too expensive. We could have stayed 30-40 miles out of Boston city centre where hotels were a bit cheaper, but then you're gonna have to pay to get in and commute into Boston and out of Boston every day, and we just thought it's just all gonna add up to too much. Now, when we was in New York the last trip, we did get an email or a message on Instagram from one of our good friends who we met in Canada a few years back when me and Jess were working in America at Camp Green Top. We met her in Canada in 2012, and she was a really nice lady who looked after us in the hotel. And she messaged us and said, why don't you come to Canada? You can stay at ours. So we was like, brilliant, we can do that. We'll stay in Canada at Niagara Falls with her for a few days, and then we'll try go to Boston. And then we looked at going to Boston first, then going to Canada, and it was just too expensive. Boston still was coming in at too much, and then the train or coaches or transport getting from Boston up to Canada was just too expensive. So we had to politely decline and say, I'm so sorry. But at first it did look like it was possible, but then the prices just went astronomically high. So we had to knock that on the head and say, I'm so sorry, but we can't make it, maybe another time. So we sat in the airport, like I said, having a Starbucks and a water, waiting for a flight from Washington to come back to Heathrow, and we thought, why don't we just go back to Philadelphia again? We really enjoyed it when we was there, say 2 weeks ago, or yeah, coming up to 2 weeks ago. We really enjoyed it. Now, you would have seen in the vlog that me and Jess got gifted some attraction tickets to various museums and things to do. Now, we didn't have time to use them all, so we still got an envelope with a couple of tickets left in. So Jess says, why don't we just go back to Philly and do the things that we didn't manage to do? So I was like, well, we don't need 6 days in Philly. We've done most of the things that we wanted to do that interests us. Why don't we just go back for half of the time? So I was like, all right then. So we decided to go from the 21st to the 24th. So from the 21st to the 24th, we are actually going to be back in Philly again, doing a couple of museums and a few other things that we got tickets for, but unfortunately we didn't have time to do. Now, there was no expiry date on them, so we can use them when we get there. Then we had to work out what we're going to do from the 24th to the 28th, because on the 28th we have to be in Washington, so we've got some exciting content coming up for you on those 28th to the 30th. So we've got 4 days or something to work out what we're going to do. Again, we wasn't planning for this, we was planning to be at camp at the time. So we had a look at New York, but we didn't want to go back to New York again. We've done that, you know, X amount of times, and it's not going to be that exciting for you again, because it's going to be the same old things. We looked at Boston again on the off chance that it will be cheaper. It wasn't. We didn't want to go too far, because we have to make sure we're back in Washington on the 28th. We have to be back in Washington for the 28th. So, and it's imperative that we are. So we didn't want to go to the East Coast because we needed a, you know, we've only got 4 days. It's going to take a long time to get over there. Then we've got to come back. So it's only going to be 2 full days in the East Coast, or West Coast, sorry. We wanted to stay somewhere on the East Coast, not go to the west coast, because like I said, it's going to take us a few hours to get there. Then we've got to fly back a few days later, and we're not going to get much done in those few days. So we wanted to make sure that we're in Washington, Baltimore, somewhere on the east coast, so we can be into Washington on the 28th. So we had a little look around, we looked on the map, and we thought, what about Pittsburgh? Now, Pittsburgh is a place that Jess and I went to in 2012 when we left camp, and we went to Chicago, but we had to get a bus from Baltimore to Chicago, and we had a layover in Pittsburgh for like 2 hours. Now, we didn't see any of Pittsburgh itself because we just stayed in the bus terminal, but when we entered Pittsburgh, it looked absolutely amazing, and we always said that we'd like to go back there and see it for ourselves rather than just seeing the bus terminal. So Pittsburgh is also in Pennsylvania, same as Philadelphia. It's the same state. So we thought it's not too far. It's about, you know, 5 or 6 hours. We can probably, you know, go over there and check it out. So we've decided that from the 21st to the 24th, we're going to be in Philadelphia. Then from the 24th to the 27th, we're going to be in Pittsburgh. We've got a couple of things to show you in Pittsburgh, some exciting things, some exciting companies that we might be working with, but I'll let Jess tell you all about that in another time, because one, I don't know all the facts, I don't know all the information, and I know Jess likes to tell you that bit because she's the one that deals with all that. And then on the 27th, we're making our way back to DC, and we're staying in Washington on the 27th, 28th, 29th and 30th. So those 4 days are going to be in Washington. Then we leave Washington and we travel down to Baltimore, and we're staying near the airport. And then on the 31st, we're flying down to Florida, and we land about 2:45 in MCO Orlando, and then about 3 o'clock my brother lands in MCO, and we'll all meet up at the airport, and then we're staying in Orlando on International Drive, and we've got 7 days, I think it's 7 nights, 8 days in Orlando, and we're going to do obviously a day's Disney and so on. So that is why we are going back for the second time in such short turnaround as when we, when we got back 9 days ago. We could have stayed in America for those extra 9 days if camp was happening, but I really didn't want to take the mick with my job, because when camp was being talked about and when the flights are sort of being booked, I had my job, but I didn't have a start date, so I didn't want to just book loads and loads of time off and then, work maybe not let me have it. So that's why there was a 9-day gap, and we didn't just stay over there for the 9 days. It'd been easier if I did. Me and Jess could have stayed over there for another 9 days and then gone and done this part of the trip, but I just had to go back to work and get a few shifts, and it's just a little bit more extra money. I wanted to not take the mick, and obviously saving money whilst coming back, because those 9 days we were over there that we've been here, it's going to be more hotels, more food, so it saved us money as well. The flights were obviously given to us, like I said, for camp, because we was meant to be working over there, volunteering over there, so the flights were all free. So that's why we're going back on the second trip. But I do tell you more in the last pre-travel day, so if you haven't watched that, I suggest you probably watch that first before watching this, because all of this vlog series from now on, we might be referring to previous trip, and if you haven't watched that yet, you might not understand what we mean. So if you haven't watched the last series, the Philadelphia New York series, then I suggest you watch that first before watching this. But yeah, so that's what we're doing, that's what we're going back over there for. So as I said, the plan is now, it's now 4:30. Our flight tomorrow is at 6:50 in the morning, so we need to be at the airport by about 3:50. So there is no way of getting us there by that time. Now Jess and I could get the Rail Air bus, but we can only get that from Watford Junction. It's the nearest bus stop from where we are in Hatfield. But there's no way of getting me and Jess to Watford Junction at that time in the morning to get onto that bus. We could get the tube, but the tubes are not running this early in the morning. And we could get the 724 bus. In other vlogs that you've seen us making our way to Heathrow, we get the 724 bus from Hatfield Station, and it takes straight there. Now, there is a bus at 2 o'clock, and it does get us there for 4 o'clock, but the next bus after that, 2 o'clock one, is about 3:10 I believe, or 3 o'clock. So if that 2 o'clock bus doesn't turn up for whatever reason, we have to rely on that 3:10 bus coming, and if that doesn't turn up, then we're going to be stuck. So in order for us not to be you know, worried that that bus ain't going to turn up. And they normally are quite reliable, but you never know. So Jess and I had a look on National Express, and we found that there's a bus, a National Express bus or coach from the Galleria, which is a shopping centre here in Hatfield, and that comes about 1:35 in the morning and gets us there at like 3 o'clock in the morning. So we are going to be there a little bit early, but it's the only way that we can guarantee that it's going to turn up. At least then, if it doesn't turn up at 1:35 from the Galleria, at least we've got someone to call. We can ask someone, we can email a company and find out what's going on. With the normal bus service, the 724, if it doesn't turn up at 2 o'clock in the morning, who are we going to call? There's no one that we can really call or email, and if we did email it, they're not going to get back to us before you know, with any answers. So we decided to get that bus. Now, in order to get to the Galleria, my brother's going to pick us up about 1 o'clock tomorrow morning, so in about 8 hours time, and he's going to drop us off at the Galleria, and then that's when we get the National Express. So when we get to Heathrow, we're at Terminal 2 again. Now, as I said, we won't get there till probably about 4 o'clock by the time we get off the bus. No, it's a bit earlier now. We won't get there till about 3 o'clock, I believe. Now, we looked at the lounges. The lounges at Terminal 2 don't open till 5. Now, because our flight is at 10 to 7, that means boarding's probably going to be about 6 o'clock, more than likely, around 6 o'clock, maybe a few minutes early. So if we don't fly till 6:50, boarding starts at 6. Now the airport lounge doesn't open till, I believe, 5 o'clock. So we're only going to have an hour in the lounge if we booked it. So we're not going to waste the Dragon Pass for that, for an hour. We're just going to leave it on the strip, so there'll be no lounge this time. We ain't flying straight to Washington. It's not a direct flight, so we've got a few connections the whole entire trip. So the first trip is from London Heathrow, and we fly with Brussels Airlines at 6:50, and we land in Brussels in Belgium. I think it's about 8 o'clock, something like that, half 8, I can't remember exactly times, but it's about a few hours later we arrive in Brussels. Then we've got like a 2-hour layover in Brussels, and then we fly from Brussels all the way to Washington. Now when we land in Washington, as I said earlier, we are going to Philly, but now we're going straight to Philly as soon as we land. So when we land in Washington IOD, we'll get the metro, I think it's the Silver Line, the metro or train, and that will take us all the way to Union Station in Washington, which is about an hour train ride. And then as soon as we get into Union Station, we'll go then probably get some food, and then we'll make our way down to the platform, and we'll get the Amtrak train straight to Philadelphia, and that takes about 2 hours. So we probably won't arrive into Philadelphia till at least probably 6, 7, maybe even 8 in the evening. So it's going to be a long day of travelling. And then, as I said, we've got 3 days in Philly. We're going to do a couple of things that we've still got tickets for. And then on the 24th, we leave Philly, and we've got an Amtrak train that takes us from Philadelphia all the way to Pittsburgh, which is about 6-7 hour train journey. It's a long one, but it was the same amount. It's the same amount time-wise with a coach. Now the coaches were cheaper, but there's no way that Jess and I want to sit on a coach for 6 or 7 hours. At least with a train, you can get up and stretch your legs. They've got like a little cap on board. At least you can do, you know, a little bit of leg stretching. On a coach, you can't. You literally just got to sit there. So we decided to get an Amtrak train. So we're getting an Amtrak train on the 24th from Philadelphia all the way to Pittsburgh. And then we're in Pittsburgh for, I think, 4 days. And then on the way back, we did look to get a train, but the trains were too expensive, so we had no choice. We had to get a bus. So we're getting a bus on the 27th from Pittsburgh, and we're getting a bus all the way back to Washington, which I think is about 5.5 hours. We get back into Washington on the 27th, and then I said the 27th, 28th, 29th and 30th we're in Washington, and we're doing a whole lot of stuff for Washington, loads of exciting things, so be sure to check that out when it gets to it. And then on the 30th we're leaving Washington. We've got a Amtrak train down to Baltimore, and we're staying near Baltimore Airport. And then the next day on the 31st we're flying to MCO, Florida, but the flight again is not a direct one. We paid for this flight ourselves, this flight, this single way to Orlando, we paid for this ourselves, Jess and I. So the flight is from Baltimore BWI to South Carolina. Then we've got a little layover in South Carolina, and then it goes on to then Orlando, and then obviously 15-20 minutes later after we land, my brother should land from Gatwick. He's going from Gatwick and he's going straight to MCO, so he should land about 15-20 minutes after us. We'll all meet up, probably go for some food in the food court, and then I'll make our way to the hotel on International Drive, and then we're there until the 7th, and then on the 7th my brother takes off about 10 minutes after we do, and he goes straight home via Philadelphia himself, and he's got a little layover in Philadelphia before flying home. And then Jess and I have got a flight from MCO Orlando to Chicago, and we've got a 2-hour or 3-hour layover in Chicago, and then we fly back to Heathrow. My brother flies back to Heathrow as well, and then we land within about 10 minutes of each other, so then we'll all travel home from Heathrow. So that's the whole trip planned. I apologise if you've seen the first vlog series already and you've heard us all before, but I have to tell you this just in case people have not watched that yet, and we're gonna be referencing quite a lot of stuff from the previous trip, and if you've not watched it, you might not understand why we are where we are, why we come back after only 9 days. So I thought I had to come on and just tell you all about that, just so you've got a better understanding. That's enough of me waffling on now, because I've been on for about 22 minutes now. That wasn't the plan that I had intended when I first jumped on. I try and want to keep this under at least 10 minutes, but I feel better now getting it off my chest and explaining everything to you. That clock, if you can see it, is wrong. It's saying 10 to 8. That's not the current time. It's currently only coming up to 4:30. That has been dead, that clock, since we got back from our last trip about 10 days ago, 9 or 10 days ago, and we've not changed the battery yet. But anyway, so that is the plan. We're really looking forward to this. The probably highlight of the trip for me is going to be going to Florida, and not because we love Florida, obviously we do, we try and go there near enough every year if we can, but it's my brother's reaction to going to Florida. So ever since my brother's been about 15, 16, he's always wanted to go to Florida. He's been banging on about going to Florida all his, you know, teen life and adult life. And he was a massive Disney fan when he was younger. He used to watch all the Disney movies. He had like a couple of plushies of Disney. He had Disney posters in his bedroom when he was a young little kid and stuff like that. And he's always wanted to go to Florida. So when we get there and show him what Florida's got to offer, show him Disney World, show him Magic Kingdom, you know, and everything like that, I'm going to be really excited to show him all of that. Now, as you know, we've been to Florida a couple of times. Now, on the occasions that me and Jess have been to Florida, we have spoken to Matt to see if he wants to come with us. Not every trip, because obviously me and Jess are obviously a couple and we obviously want to be together, and sometimes when we're all together on holiday we all share the same sort of room, and obviously it's a bit awkward all three of us sharing the same room. So we don't always offer him to come, but a couple of times we have done, and a few times my brother has had to decline due to either not having enough money, just simply couldn't afford it, or he's got other plans, or he's got work and no annual leave. But this time he's got the annual leave, and I've got the wages to help him out, because obviously when we went a few years ago I had a different job then, and the wages were good, but I didn't have enough to help my brother out if you know, for anything. With this job that I'm in now, even though I've only been in there for about 3 months, it's going well and the wages are really good, so I've got a little bit of more income to help my brother. Probably about 2 months ago, I said to Matt, Jess and I after camp are going to Washington, then after Washington we're making our way down to Florida and we're going to Orlando for about a week. Would you like to come? My brother said yes, I've got the annual leave, so I can easily book that off. He said money might be a bit of an issue, but I said don't worry about that, we can arrange something, we can sort something out. Let's just get you to Florida. It's one of your dreams to go. You've wanted to go to Disney World for probably longer than what I've ever wanted to go, so let's just make it happen and let's get you to Florida. So he's travelling on his own and making his way down to Florida, and he'll meet us there when we get there. We have got a car for a few days. I think from the 3rd of September to the 7th we've got a car, so we'll be able to go out and about and do things. We've got 1 day at Magic Kingdom. That's not booked yet, because we've been looking online when it's not been the not so scary party or the Boo Bash or whatever it is now. the Halloween party. We don't want to go when it's the Halloween party because obviously you have to leave the park at 5 or 6. We want to make sure that we're there from the full day so we can stay till like 10, 11 at night so we get our money's worth. So we're probably going to book that on our first day of getting into Orlando, because we'll go straight to, say, Disney Springs and book the tickets there for a day that hasn't got the Halloween party, so we can get the full day there. So that is the plan for that. Like I said, the highlight is seeing Matt in Orlando. He's been really excited going. He's not one that gets really excited about loads of stuff, you know, but when we told him, do you want to come to Orlando? Do you want to go to Disney World for a day? He's been banging on about it for the last couple of weeks. He's really excited. I just went to Morrison's with him this morning for sort of a brunch, and all he did was talk about Orlando and could he do this and is this there and what about that and can I do that, can we go here? And bless him, he's really excited. So that for me is probably going to be the highlight of the whole trip, seeing my brother in one of the places he's always wanted to visit for as long as I can remember. But I digress. That is a lot of waffle, and I apologise that it's been about 25 to 26 minutes. I do apologise. I am sorry, but I just have to tell you these things just so you know what to expect on the trip. The plan is now for me to go. I still need to pack my hand luggage. Jess at the moment is currently printing out all the tickets, the visas or the ESTAs, all the hotel confirmations, stuff like that. We always like to keep a paper copy with us just in case emails don't open or they don't work or we can't find the email when we get to the location. So we prefer to have like a paper trail just on us. Then I'm probably gonna have a shower, stuff like that. Probably have some food. And then we're probably just going to call it a night about 7, 8 o'clock in the evening, have a few hours nap, and then my brother's come around about 12, 12:15 for a brew, and then he's taken us to drive us to the bus stop to drop us off, and then that will be it for us for about 19 days. I think, yeah, we take off tomorrow morning on the 21st, and we don't get back to the 8th of September, so I think it's about 19 days, I think. So we're looking forward to it. We really can't wait. Even though we've only been back 9 days, we're still really excited about going and getting out of the country and just really enjoying ourselves. We're really looking forward to that. We're looking forward to getting back to Philly. That was one of our favourite cities we've been to. Even though New York will still be our favourite, Philadelphia was a close second, and it's very close. It's really, really good. Looking forward to getting back to Pittsburgh again. Even though we went in 2012, but it was only for like 2 hours and we didn't see anything but the bus terminal, but we're really looking forward to going there and seeing it properly. And then obviously we're working with a couple of brands in Washington, which we're really, really looking forward to. And then obviously the highlight, we're saving the best to last, is Florida with my brother. So that is everything. I've told you everything I need to tell you. I've got it all off my chest now. I've been worrying that I'll forget something. Apologies that it's taken a bit longer than I planned. And apologies if you've already seen the first vlog series and you've heard all this all before, but I just had to, just in case, because like I said, if you watch this without watching the first vlog series, you might have a lot of questions. But I hope I've answered them all on this vlog. Thank you so much for watching. I'm gonna go now. You'll probably see us in a couple of hours time when we're leaving to make our way to the coach. But for now, I'll see you later, and yeah, have a good rest of the weekend. See you everyone.
At all? Do you think about the things we used to